welcome to another stream here at Lightingbot. Thank you for tuning in as usual. Today we are talking to Hussien. I promised that I will try and pronounce his name correctly. So Hussien Shalaan, I'm hoping that's correct. So he's a 3D environment artist and also a lighting artist. So we'll dive a little bit into different topics today. But he's also from Egypt, so we have an opportunity to learn a little bit about other part of the country and the challenges that happens for artists over there in terms of learning and so on and opportunities, right? So please leave a hello in the chat so I know you're watching and you're here and supporting. Leave a like, subscribe, and share so more people can come and join us during the conversation. We have a really good session for you today. Some talking, some workshop things, some actual breakdowns. So it's going to be really good. So please welcome him into the talk. Hey, man.
Hey everyone.
Cool,
Hey,
man.
how's it going?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much for showing up and attending. I really appreciate it. So let's get started, right? So let's talk a little bit briefly about yourself. Who are you, and what's your experience so far?
Okay, my name is Hussien Shalaan. I'm from Cairo, Egypt. I'm a senior environment and lighting artist. My career started 8 years ago. I started working on a game called Nights of Light in a studio called Romping Game Studio. I've been working on this game for 5 years. It was a game published for Sony PlayStation 4 at this moment. It was an RPG game, and I was responsible for creating the environment and the lighting as a 3D generalist at this on this game. After this, I worked as a 3D environment and lighting instructor at Nizak Animation School and also at ITI Information Technology Institute here in Egypt to teach people and the students how to get started with Unreal Engine and 3D and environment and creating a very good lighting because it's a bit harder to me at this moment to find a very useful source to learn from. And how I did learn all these things from gaining experience from the project and trial and error and all of these things, and from asking people and get involved with the community and with the Unreal Engine documentation itself and YouTube channels and all of these things. So it was a self-learning journey. And after this, I started in the media production in a studio called the Post Office Productions studio, and it was a bit challenging because I was working on an Unreal Engine. And the media production in Egypt wasn't leaning on Unreal Engine. It was for V-Ray and all of the offline renders because they was seeing that Unreal Engine is only a game engine, and Unreal Engine can't handle a media quality or a production quality project. But I did tried my best and created a lot of projects that created with Unreal Engine, with virtual production projects, series, programs, previs, and all of these things in Unreal Engine. And after this, right now, I'm a senior environment lighting artist in Genius. I'm working remotely on a project, a triple A project, and metaverse project based.
Cool. Thank you. It was a lot.
Yeah.
So, as usual, guys, you're watching. Leave questions if you get curious during the conversation. As usual, I just want to say hello to Eilite for tuning in, for David, and for myself, for Wesley, for Amir, Mo, Jeremiah. Thank you so much. Keep the engagement up. If you have anything going on, if you want to share your stories in the comments, please do so as well. It's just not me and Hussein. How do I pronounce your name again?
See.
Hassin.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
By the time we're done, I'm gonna get it right. Hassin.
No worries at all.
I'll master it. So yeah,
Yeah.
so Hastin, so you are obviously an environment and lighting artist. What benefit have you gotten out of one or the other specialty? So you are both a lighting artist and an environment artist. What knowledge do you think you have that might be beneficial for a lighting artist as an environment artist as well?
Okay, I wasn't believing that focusing on one thing, it's an important thing, but to know a lot of things and a lot of parts in environment and the whole process of creating an environment and all of the things is very added a lot of experience to me because one of the projects that I was responsible for as a lead environment artist or a 3D supervisor. So I had to be have a knowledge how to create the pipeline of the 3D from the start, from the beginning to the end, and also I'm very entertained with creating the environment, but the specific part that I'm really entertained with is creating the lighting, because the lighting, I see, from my opinion, it's a very important part, because it's the final stage that you will work on it. And if you created a very detailed models and very the composition is very well, and the environment is very detailed, with a bad lighting it will ruin everything, and everything will be gone away. So I'm believing the lighting is the brush for the artist that added the final touch for his artwork. So this is the most important thing that I found it in the lighting specifically. But I wanted to have the general things, like the environment creation process, optimization, all of these things. And but the when we came into the lighting process, that's the most entertaining part for me.
Okay, cool. So, of course, we have different people watching, and there are different skills of people here, I'm sure. Um, and we already have a question that so we can ask that in a few minutes as well. Um, so, when you do your environment and you prepare your environment, what is some of the first thing that you do to prepare everything, even before you do lighting? Because you do all of it.
Yeah. In terms to preparing, first thing I am searching for the master reference that I will focusing in, and after searching for the master reference that I will follow, I will break the master reference into small parts. After breaking this, I will search and adding like a pure ref template, and adding all the references for lighting details, micro details, texturing, style, art style, all of these things. So I will have a multiple imagery and multiple references from for different styles, and merge and blend all these things to create a new art style, a new look for the environment that I wanted to create. And the second thing that I see it's very useful for me, and I gained this experience from multiple projects, because before I wasn't organized in terms for the folders, naming, all of these things. So it was a mess regards for when I'm trying to reach for a map or a level or a material and all of these things. So I learned to create a very organized folder structure in the File Explorer and for the Unreal Engine content itself. So it helped me a lot to organize everything. And if there's any edits, anything that I wanted to reach out, I will all that I have is search for the project name, and everything will be popped up very in an organized fashion.
Okay, that makes sense. So,
Yeah,
with all of this process, so you obviously had to learn quite a bit of different things, and you live in Egypt, am I correct?
yeah. I'm living in Egypt right now.
So, tell us a little about your journey learning art, because Egypt, as far as I know, isn't exactly the hub of art or hub of game development, you know? So, how did you deal with those challenges? Tell us a little bit about your journey, specifically going through all of this in Egypt.
Okay, my journey started way when I was a little. My family was an artistic family. My grandpa and my father. My father is a college doctor. He is teaching sculpting in the Applied Arts University in Hilwan University. So when I was very young, I was by them, and I was affected by all this art. And when I started at the beginning, there's a lack of expertise, and I can't find who I can learn from and how I can learn. So I did try to. I started to learn from multiple things. I started as a graphic designer, and I didn't make it. I started as emotion graphics, direct editing, Photoshop, and all of these things, and scripting, programming, and all of these things. But I didn't find myself till I reached the environment creation and the lighting with Unity. Unity at this moment, I believe that there is real-time shadows wasn't became a feature yet, and we was faking shadows and all of the things. And the people that follows me when I get started, that they can notice that I'm always announcing that I will create a game and create a trailer for it, and there's no game or something like this, because I'm creating the trailer and I can't make the game itself. So I found it that I'm a special in regards for creating the environment itself and creating a lighting in Unity. So my career started right there. I believe in 2015, 2016, something like this. After this, I started working in the Rumbling Game Studio with Nights of Light, and we started this game from scratch with a very small team. I believe we was 4 or 5, something like this. One for art, one for managing, one for developing all of these things. We was an indie studio at this moment, and everyone has to learn everything and put all his efforts to create an environment. I believe that I have been creating a very bad environment for 3 years till I said myself, I can't make it, I can't create an environment, I'm very bad at it, and I didn't know how to create a good or at least acceptable environment at this moment. After this, I tried to learn the academic side first. Academic side with the technical side, because if you know the tool, it's good, but when you know the rules, it's important. So I tried to learn the rules. How, what is the nature of the environment? What is the nature of the desert, and all of these things, in order to creating a realistic environment. So I started to study geology and study the science behind lighting and how's lighting working, and bouncing and all of these things. So I had an academic background at this time. All this background and all this how to idea helped me a lot to increase my experience and enhance myself, because right now I know very well that when I'm lighting a room, there's a light bounces there and there and there. So if there's not something wrong or something a bit off, I know that there's something wrong and I need to fix it. The same goes with the environment and all of the things, because as you know that in terms for environmental lighting specifically, if there's something tiny overdone or not perfect, you feel like it's a CG or a bad CG. So the whole thing will be ruined. So through my journey, I was trying to gaining experience, learning a lot of things, and also I did try it. One of the challenges that I've been through, that I was trying to learn modeling, and it's a bit harder to me because I wasn't know, or I didn't have the knowledge what is modeling is, because I felt like modeling is like magic. It's very hard to me and impossible to learn modeling. But after simplifying everything, I know to how to start from just a cube, creating a whole environment and all of these things. It helped me a lot through my journey. And right now I'm working with Blender because I found Blender is way easier, more familiar and friendly to me. Uh,
Makes sense.
and yeah, and it helped me a lot after this. And one of the challenges that I have been through for when I got started with Unreal Engine in the media production, because I was from coming from a games background, and games background meaning optimization, and I have a game ready asset. After this, I have to create a cinema asset, and Unreal Engine 4 at this moment wasn't supporting Nanite and all of these things, so it has always to have a move around and fixing solution, because one of the things that I believe that Unreal Engine is not a straightforward workflow. Always there is always move arounds, and always there's some secrets that you can move around it. And uh, one plus one not it's not has to always be equal to. You can add different equation and always it will give you the same result. So to
Makes sense.
convince people, yeah, yeah.
So, So I think since you're already explaining a lot of this, how about we go into the engine and you can break
Yeah,
slowly through your workflow
yeah,
um, to kind of showcase these things visually.
sure. Let me share my screen so we can have a breakdown for the
And you
latest
have and
project.
you have and you have a lot of time, so you don't have to stress.
Perfect. Okay. Let me. Okay, is my screen shared?
Yep.
Okay, let me go first. On the right here, the folder of the project. First thing that I'm doing is adding open reference. So all the references that I will follow, I put it there. I found the concept art by Eddie Medoza that I found it's very detailed, and the lighting of it catch me a lot, and it was a bit challenging to me because I did not created an environment and lighting like this before, and I wasn't have any idea how to create this at the beginning. After this, I became an idea. What about rather than creating the whole thing like the modeling standard, like put this in Blender, creating the whole thing and all of these things. What about creating the whole environment in Unreal Engine without using any third-party modeling application? So after this, I started to take down the concept art itself here into parts and into materials, and so I will have an idea what the structure, because as you see the concept art right there is a very detailed and it has a lot of tiny details and it's not as straightforward, so it's a bit harder to me to know all these things. So I started to slowly sketching on top of it to know the lines and all of these things, so I will have a very good start. After this, I popped into Unreal Engine and start preparing the project. Let me hide this and show off the blockout. Right there is the blockout of the project. It started from there, just the cubes. I will play back a video right now with the progression of the project from the beginning till the end. It start from there, and through the development parts, I start to add the wood planks and changing material, changing models and assets and all of the things till I reach the final part. One of the things that I have done in this project, first, I did search on my local project for everything related for wood, like wood planks, roofs, all of these things, in order to have like a kit or an asset to start with. So it's like on construction. You will build a house, so you need to collect the assets or the construction props that you will using it to start working on it. After this, there's a very useful tool. I did use it. I did downloaded some of Megascans trees and Megascans wood planks and all of the things that helped me a lot through the development process and get the shape done as fast as I can. One of the things that I found it very useful is the Boolean tool. Why? Because when I using these wood planks, if I wanted to add a boolean in the standard way, I have to take this model and exporting to Blender and add the boolean, the cut that I need, and back it again, and all of these things it will consume a lot of time. So straightforward from Unreal Engine, I use the modeling tool. If I let me first select the level that I'm working on, get this wood plank, and I would, let's say I want to create a cut the same size as this window. So first thing first, I will bring a cube and add this cube in to fit the part that I wanted to cut, and select the cube and the wood plank. After this, going for modeling tool, and where did it go? Just a second. Where is the boolean? Mesh cut. Yeah, mesh pool. So Unreal Engine will start calculating the model Yeah, I just a second. This first and this first. The Boolean tool works the same as Blender. So first you need to select the model that need to be cut first, and there's different A or B, or you can invert it. So after this, creating this cut, I will click accept and will adjust or fixing the material slots, because when there's new material slot added, so after this I will fix the material slots. So right now I have a boolean without affecting the original model itself. So this method helped me a lot to speeding my process and modeling process, and make me focusing more on the creative part rather than doing back and forth process over and over again. After this, one of the tools that I found very useful to adjusting the model, twisting tool from the modeling tool right there, to twist wood parts and adjust the shape of it. That helped me a lot through the modeling process. The same goes for poly edit, to edit and remove some of the polygons that I found not useful for me. The same goes for lattice wrapping, uh, deforming and try model tool section. It helped me a lot. And this same method I used in my latest project, the cinematic that I have created for creating the cave. The whole cave created was with wrapping tool to deforming the rock and twisting the rock for the shape that I wanted to do. After this, after creating and reaching for the final image, oh, I see there is a virtual texture glitching right there. Uh, One of the things that I'm always doing is freezing a camera. This camera, it will be my master shot. So when I was working, I opened two viewports. So I will focusing to the viewport that I have right here and creating the models and the environment level design in the other side to maintain the framing. And if P fitted was the concept art and the reference that I have selected, I think I need to restart my engine very quick in order to
That's
fix
fine.
this. Yeah,
You can
the
restart
virtual.
the engine. While you restart the engine, you can answer another question.
Perfect.
Where is it? So Christopher Rasp asks, I do have a question for later. The first I have is, have you joined a project late in production? So he's asking if you ever joined a game in the middle of production, meaning you weren't part of the concept of pre-production.
Yeah. A lot. It's happened a lot that one of the there is some project that I've joined in the middle of the production, and it's more challenging because most of the deadline is going away, and you need to fix the things way faster and make the things running very fast. So yeah, the most important things at this type of scenarios that you have to have quick decisions, fast forward solutions in order to finish the project as fast and as best as you can.
Okay. So um let's do another question. So Wesley wants to get into the game industry as a lighting artist. He for him it appears to be more environment artist positions out there. Should he focus on lighting or learn other skills for his first job?
Okay, I faced this issue too. So here is the solution that I took. First thing, yeah, when if we talk like focusing in one part, like lighting or be special at at something specifically, it's good. But in the other hand, the job requirements, like most of the companies require environmental parts, know most of the programs and all of the things. So the solution is that I follow is learning the whole career itself to be an environment plus a lighting artist. And if there's any job that requires this, I will do it. And when became it to the lighting part that you will entertain with, it will be the most part that you will entertain with, but you able to do the whole thing, like not only focusing in one part and leave the others. The same goes with programs. If you want to learn a program, yeah, I like this program and this program is not, but you have to learn this and you have to work with this program. So yeah, some of the things you have to learn it in order to work and find a lot of jobs and work on multiple projects, not only close yourself on one thing.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting questions. Again, feel free to ask questions. We're here to answer questions. Although if you ask the questions, I'm only gonna ask. Uh, Damn it, Hussein. How do I pronounce your name again?
Hussien Shalaan.
Hassin. I'll ask
Yeah.
Hassin. Unless you directly ask me the question, Hassin is the one who's going to answer. As usual, thank you, Albanan. Thank you, Emmett, for joining as well. Um, Wesley as well. Thank you, Borky. Good to see you as well. And Judah, I know he didn't ask a question though, but Judah studies at where was it? Full Sail University, and he's definitely looking to learn Unreal for the time being, and he uses Maya a lot. I can ask a question for him actually because a lot of students they are learning a lot of things. And what do you think? You kind of indirectly answered it, but I'll ask anyway. Is as a student and you're learning and you're spending a lot of money because full sail is not cheap. Um,
Yeah.
do you think within the years that Judah is studying, should the person pick a specific tool to master or become a generalist? What are your thoughts on that?
Look, I will tell you something. At the beginning of my career, I wasn't know what the thing that I'm master with. So I did try a lot of things, but after this, it's helped me a lot when I focused on one thing. Like for this project, for example. I'm a specialist with the environment and lighting, but you can find a Photoshop editing, a graphic design logo and outside, and a video editing experience, all of these things. So, from my opinion, I'm saying that to be a 3D generalist at first is very useful, and it will give you an experience in everything, and you will find yourself in a specific part, and you will master this part. But know everything, it will be helpful. Like let's go for a regular thing. If you went an event or talking with the community, you will have a background how modeling is, how the texture is, what is all these principles and all of these basics will give you a very good knowledge, and you will be special at something. So yeah, it's always better to know more.
Hmm. Cool. So you see your engine is back up and running. Do you remember where you left off?
Yeah, I was talking about the modeling. Yeah, one of the things that helped me a lot through this journey, the Decagon Unreal Learning package, the Western, I think, the Western package that Unreal Engine released, that it helped me a lot to reach the look that I want, because I found a lot of props and a lot of assets that I can add it and mix it together along with the assets that I had selected before with Megascans to reach out this look, and also was cutting and pulling some things and edit some things in order to reaching the desired look that I wanted to. There's multiple things. Look, first, there's one of the questions that I had it before. Do I have to create everything from scratch? Yes and no at the same time. How? Look, you doesn't have to invent the wheel over and over again. If I have a project and I have an environment, so I have an assets and I have a lot of package that available and like mega scans and a lot of more package that available in marketplace, there's no problem to use this asset and mix it together. It's not stealing. You know, you are getting multiple parts from multiple zones and multiple variation and mix it together to create a new thing. That's first. But the most important to know that you are having a modeling background and you know very well how to create this asset. So if you wanted to create a hero asset and there's something special that you can't find it online, or you can't find it on a marketplace or something like this, that you have to modeling with your hands. So it's to have the opportunity and have the creativity to use all these assets and mix it together and became with it was a new thing. It's very important because it's like Legos. You collect multiple things from multiple places and create a new thing. That's an artistic sense. One more thing. Let's It started was the lighting. That was a bit challenging to me, and the environment. After reaching the final phase of this house, and I start working on the lighting. So I separated the lighting in multiple sub-levels. As you see, first I have the sub-level props that I'm always go there and search what I need, and pick these assets and back again and use it. After this, I'm using I created a sublevel for the house, so everything it will be organized and separated from each other, so it will be very useful. After this, I have the blocking parts, so I know very well what is the limitation, what is the size, all these things, and all of these things scaled for the skeleton of Unreal Engine. After this, I created four levels for the lighting. In terms of when I creating an environment, I'm always loving to what about trying multiple light setups? Well, because I'm really believing that lighting it can deliver a lot of feelings, different moods, different stories by lighting only. So lighting one of the most important parts in terms for creating an artwork. So first thing that I'm always starting with is the standard daylight lighting. One of the things that I found very useful when I was using this daylight style, uh, before when I was working on daylight system, I was always go for the post processing details and go for the exposure and make it manual. But for some reason, I forgot to do this part. But what I found when I was looking at the camera viewport right there, when it's set to auto exposure, I found that the highlights of the sun was way better, and there is some highlights right there and shadows in midtones. All of the things was very balanced, like in HDRI or some HDR. So it was. I found it increased the realism of the lighting, especially for the daylight scenario, and for the other light scenarios, like if we go for the sunset or for the rain, I set it to manual, so the whole lighting is freeze. Let me go for the hardest part first. Or let me first break down the lighting, the daylight post processing, and the atmospheric settings.
So when you were doing, you mostly use lumens, if I'm
Yeah,
remembering. Yeah. So what are
yeah.
the common challenges you met when using lumens?
Yeah, I will tell you right now because Lumen specifically with virtual shadows and all of these things, I faced a lot of issues with it. So here is the move arounds that I followed. Let me first go for the post processing. Make this unlit. So okay, first the exposure settings, as I said, it's well set to auto exposure. After this, I left all these things as it is because I'm doing all this post production effects on DaVinci. And the coloring right there, I set it as it is without editing anything. Lumen, I set always lumen scene quality to 2, lumen scene details to 4, final gather quality to 2. When I'm dealing with a way larger scene, increasing this distance. And for the diffuse color, when I'm dealing with a daylight lighting, increasing this to 4 in order to have more bounce light, because as you know that directional light is bouncing lights over and over again. It's a very strong light source. So That's not logic when you lighting a daylight scene and there's a dark shadows in it, and there's something will be felt a bit off. After this, I set the lumen reflection, the reflection to lumen, and for the translucency, I'm set it to raster, so I'm using the lumen reflection right there, but there's none, a lot of translucent, just the doors. But the most challenging parts in the lighting is the master artwork is the same as the reference. Let me first decrease the screen percentage because the scene is a bit heavy. Let me open this scene because this is the master one and this is the hardest for me. First, as you see when I click G right there, there's a lot of light sources and there's a lot of point lights. And I'm using a virtual texture, virtual shadow maps. And as we know, the virtual shadow maps is in a beta version right now. So it's not stable. So after adding amount of lights in the small area, I start noticing that the virtual shadows start glitching, and there's a weird glitching happens while I'm working on the scene. First things I did is go for something like this, a light that it has not big effect and disabling shadow, cast shadow from it. So it saves a bit performance at the same time, lower the cached virtual shadow maps that using. One more thing that helped me a lot that this console command that you can add it on the default engine. This r.shadow.virtual max physical pages set to 8192 92, yeah. That helped me to get rid of this weird glitching and the virtual shadow map and make the scene more stable because on the default settings of Unreal Engine it's set to lower than this, so you have to write on this setting. One more thing that I added in this scene is this parallel effect in the windows. If I went there, you can see when I'm moving the camera, the cube maps is moving with me. So it's give me an illusion that there is an environment right there and there's a depth of the scene, and there's nothing really there. I will break down very quick the shader of this. We go first is just a cube map, just a plane as we see. Inside this plane, we have this. First, I have this cube map. It's 512 by 512, and I'm using this interior cube map and this set the value tiling value to 1, and I'm overwriting the lighting and emissiveness by this orange tint to it, and I'm setting the base color uh, here to the texture itself, and here I'm overwriting the emissiveness and set the roughness to 0 in order to give a reflective or a glass looking feeling to the texture itself. So it helped me a lot when I'm moving the camera and the whole thing is moving, that there is an environment right there and it's moving. So it added a lot of details. After this, the scene separated in multiple things. First, we have
Let me ask you a question first, just so we don't go too far.
Mhm.
Um, in case you weren't clear. So Nada is asking, how did you achieve every lighting mood you got?
how I did achieve every lighting.
Yeah, it's a very open-ended question. Can mean many things. I'm gonna assume it might be the levels part, maybe,
Yeah,
or maybe it's the reference board. Maybe she can
yeah,
clarify a little bit. So there's different
sure.
ways to answer this question.
Okay. It's both of them. Yeah, but in regards for working on multiple light setups and different light setups and achieving this mood, it's very important to have a reference, a clear reference, because when you're working from your imagination, yeah, you will achieve something, but you will lost a lot of details in between. So in order to maintain all of these details while you are working, it's important to have references from each lighting mode that you wanted to follow. So I collected multiple references, multiple light setups, multiple feelings, multiple moods, and when I start working on it, I start to extract this and add it to the level that I'm working on it. That's from the reference side, and for the technical side in Unreal Engine, as you see, every light setup is separated in a separate sub level, and the toggle light scenario is toggled on right there. When when I'm rendering, and I will get in this when I reach the rendering part, I will talk for how I did separate each level from rendering, and what is the ACES workflow that I have followed, and all of these things, and what is the settings that I have used in a movie render queue, and what is the challenge that I have been through. Can I proceed and breaking more the lighting that I have right here?
Yeah, let me ask a couple of quick questions just to make sure they get caught on. So, what is the best resource to learn Unreal Engine from? So, for anyone who asks questions, um, there's no such thing as best. So, we're gonna go for what he's recommending that he's used. So, what is the how would you recommend Nara to learn Unreal Engine?
Okay, there's multiple sources. First, from Unreal Engine documents itself and Unreal Engine channel, that you will have a very standard or a basic information about how the Unreal Engine is working, and from the community or following an Unreal Engine course to give you all the information that you need. The first thing that you need to know about Unreal Engine is the tools. To break down the tools, how Unreal Engine working, all of these things, so you will have the capability to get started with Unreal Engine. And one more thing that I was always doing this when I was teaching the students in NISAC or ITI. When they asking me specific questions, I did not answer them in a very direct way. Why? Because if I answer them there's issue in direct way, they will know this issue, the solution of this issue only. But if I directed them, you like, if you're having a lumen issue, so you have to search on how to fix this issue. While you are searching and reading the Unreal documents and asking a lot of people, you will gain a lot of information and double your experience at this moment. So find this solution, and this way is very useful to learning things.
Yeah, totally. It's a lot of people ask for the best and quickest way to learn, but it's often the one that makes it harder for you later. Actually,
Yeah.
that's very true. I'll just keep asking some more questions so we can continue 10 more minutes and then ask some more questions afterwards. So I like asking in UE5. It doesn't really matter if it's UE5 or Unity. That though, do you think using IES profiles intensity over the usual light intensity will achieve a real lighting? And what do you think about light function material in UE5, which is basically
Okay. First, let me separate this question to two parts. First, for the lighting profiles IES into Unreal Engine. Mostly, I'm using the IES light profiles when I'm using more architecture or ArcViz projects. That helped me a lot to achieve this illusion and this shape of the light, and for each spotlight, and it's very useful. And all do you have is adjust the intensity of the light as well with the exposure settings, because there's two schools or two backgrounds for the lighting. Most of people using the standard exposure, and most of people like using double of the exposure and using a real lighting values. So there's two different way to achieve this lighting values. And the other part for the lighting function, I'm using lighting function in two parts. First was the directional light, to use it with the clouds, and it's simulating the cloud shadowing because it's a very useful and it's adding a lot of depth for the environment, especially with working with an open world environment. Second thing was working with the light you want to function something like a light bulb or a torch that you wanted to flicker, all of these things. So it's useful to use.
Cool. One more question. David is asking. Many people are using. So basically, what he's asking is, uh, do you like lumens or the other methods of lighting?
Okay, I will tell you because yeah, this part I was talking about a lot at the beginning of Unreal Engine 5. I will tell you, Unreal Engine 4 is the harder, and everyone has learned how to create a lighting and master a lighting with Unreal Engine 4. He will find Unreal Engine way easier. Why? Because Unreal Engine Path Tracer was very limited. There's no lumen, there is no nanite, and there's lack of optimization, and you have to achieve and pass through all these hard parts in order to create a very good and very realistic lighting. So I was one of the first people that I downloaded Unreal Engine 5 GitHub version. It was when it was in development side, and I found that Lumen saves a lot of time and doing a lot of saves a lot of effort that you was doing before in Unreal Engine 4. So yeah, kind of leaning on, yeah, the world is developing and everything is upgrading, but yeah, the old school is the hardest and is better.
Cool. I like asking, what's the? uh, I'm not a fan of questions that start with best approach because it suggests there's only one way. It's not. So, what is your recommended method of doing night sky and night lighting in an open environment?
A night sky and open environment into Unreal Engine. Okay, first, when you added your standard light actors like the sky atmosphere, the height fog, the directional light, and the skylight. First thing first, I will do is reducing the intensity of the directional light and adding it a bit colder tint to it, so it will affect the sky atmosphere. I will play a bit with the sky atmosphere settings in order to get this night warm a night chill light that we need. After this, I will overwriting it with the post processing color correction was the skylight intensity set to low in order to have a dark shadow. All of this, it has to be with references that help you achieve your desired look.
Nice. So, I think that covers most of the question for now. You can continue
Okay,
and with the process you're doing.
perfect. Okay. Uh, Let me explain a bit what I was looking into this look specifically. I will talk about the artistic part first, and then I will go for the technical part. Uh, Let me get like a screenshot of this still image so I can demonstrating more on it. Yeah, this one, and let's take screenshots so I can edit on top of it. Yes. First, in order to lighting a scene, I'm always looking for, first there's multiple things. First, that you have the key light that you have. Let me show you the key light. First, the key light is there, which is the sun, and the sun have this green tint to it. And one more thing I will show you right now, the developing of this part. I hope that I took a screenshot out of this. Yes. As you see, it was at the beginning is a harsh blue color, and it wasn't successful yet, and I was over and over adjusting till I reached the desired look. One part that I found it the most important in order to work with lighting specifically, you need to be patient. and because it will consume a lot of time, consume a lot of editing, it's back and forth over and over again. So it's not just adding directional light, skylight, all of this, I'm done. No, it's the most time consuming part, the most part that consume passion and all of these things in order to desire a very good lighting, because with a good lighting, as we said, it will achieve a very good scene. Okay, so let me open Unreal and show you guys the directional light here. Let me know. Yeah, here is the directional light that I'm using, and it has this green tint to it, and it's set to a very low. Let me grab the lighting mixer. By the way, lighting mixer is a very useful tool, and it's give me an organized window for all the lighting that I have. So as we see, the direction light is intensity set to zero point 0.5, and it has this greenish light. One more thing, I'm using the HDRI backdrop, but most of you guys, when you're adding an HDRI backdrop, you will notice that your directional light is gone, even increasing the size of it. Why? I will give you the answer right now. If you go the master material, that you will see that you have to overrate in and tells the Unreal Engine to add the skylight atmosphere light disk into the HDRI itself. So you're grabbing this emissive color and adding it with the sky atmosphere. Make sure the lighting index is set to zero as the same with directional light, because if you change this or changes in the directional light actor, it will pick a different index for the directional light. After this, I will rehook this into the emissive color, so we will bring back the directional light actor into our scene. After adding the directional light and go for the skylight atmosphere, here is the settings. It's set to default. There's nothing special with it. The sky atmosphere right there, I'm using this HDRI that I found it is added a very interesting details into reflection into the indirect lights parts and all of these things. So the cube maps is a very important rather than if you will use a real-time one or a cube map, find a very interesting and detailed cube map so it will reflect into your environment. After this, increase the cube map resolution to 1024 and reduce the intensity to zero point 0.5 to have a tiny effect into the scene, because most of the scene is a dark tone. After this, I added a lot of rig lights. There's multiple things. Rig lights is a bit expensive, so if you using it with a game environment, be aware that it's kind of expensive. That's what I found from my side. And let me go for the fog. Here is the settings that I use for the fog. There is using the volumetric fog, and I'm overwriting the tint right here, the fog intensity and the fall off in order to have this foggish look into the environment. And the most important part, which is the rig light. Okay, first, adding the rim light. The rim light is the light that framing your model. So I started to add light right there, right there, right there, with interesting shadows to it. So I added rig lights behind this leaves, so it will leave a shadow of the leaves in it. And I added this rim lights in order to frame this garage roof. The same goes with the fence. The same goes with this rock. And also, I will break down all of this in details in Unreal Engine right now. The same goes right there, right there, right there. All these rim lights. So it's helped me a lot in order to framing the scene that I have. So I have the general look. After framing this, I added lights with opposite temperature, because as we see we have a cold temperature, so I added a more warm temperature rig lights in order to break the scene. So I added the light right there, right there, right there, here, in order to add a light right there, in order to fixing or balance the scene. The whole scene is not cool, so you have to break it down a bit with more warmish color. Let me go in depth into Unreal Engine very quick right there. Okay, late mode. Okay, Unreal Engine is preparing shatters. I don't know when I'm sharing my screen. Unreal Engine behaving very slow. Okay. Yeah, one of the parts that I have done right there, that for this rock I have painted tiny grass into it, so it adding details for the moss that added on top of the rock, because it's a foreground rock, so it has to be detailed. So yeah, that's one of the parts that helped me a lot in order to maintain and adding a lot of attention of details for the environment. So as we see right there, I added a fill light. So this fill light is removing and get rid of all these black shadows and dark shadows to the scene, and it gives me a lot to balance between highlights, midtones, and shadows, with maintaining everything crisp and clean. After this, one of the things that I have added in the raining mode, let me go for the raining mode right there.
Just to confirm, you're still using lumens, and it's still required all of this extra work with lumens still.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I'm very fan of Lumen because Lumen saves a lot of time. It has a very good potential to be taken Unreal Engine in a other way, because Lumen is a very smart rendering solution that added an Unreal Engine 5 later, and it's keep developing and developing, increasing over and over the time. The
But
same goes with.
do you think because you're depending on so many lights, do you think lumens is doing what it should be doing? Because part of the sales pitch of lumens is that it's supposed to fill in the blanks, so you don't have to add extra light in the shadows. But most people have to do it anyway, even using lumens. Um, I would argue that is why you need to focus on learning lighting principles and not just depend on lumens, because a lot of people using
Yeah.
lumens think it's drag and drop when it's not. It's still a
Yeah.
drag and drop, right?
Yeah, I'm with you with this. Yeah, in order to work with Lumen, yeah, as long as, yeah, I'm with you that Lumens help you a lot, but you need to have the lighting principles and know everything about lighting, how lighting works, how to light a scene properly, how to use this. Yeah, we have the solution, as we said, as Lumen, but it's not only the solution. You have to know the basics, the fundamentals, how lighting works, how everything works, because it's a very important part of becoming an lighting artist. So you're not only relying on Lumen, that Lumen will do everything. No, you will always have to know what rim light is, fill lights, key lights, and all of the things, and Lumen will help you. But most of the work is on your side.
That makes uh, that makes complete sense, and I think it's important for a lot of people who are learning lighting to kind of
Yeah.
understand that as well. That it's not just put out the light and that's all you need to learn. There's a lot more to understand with lighting and color and composition and framing and so on. I just want to ask you. I did write in private chat, but you have more time, or are you in a hurry? Is there any time sensitivity I need to pay attention to?
No, no, totally free.
Cool. Just keep going then.
Perfect. Yeah, yeah. I'm very entertained. I'm very honored to be with you and with you guys to share this progression of this project and sharing information with each other. So I'm very happy with this interview.
Yeah, no problem, man. It's just a
You need it.
conversation. We're just having fun together and chilling
Yeah.
and taking some questions. So if everyone has some more questions, I guess you can fire it off, and we'll try and answer it later, I suppose, as well. Yeah, so you can keep going.
Okay. Let's go for the other part, which is the atmospherics. Atmospherics plays a lot of rules in order to maintain to reach out the desired look that you want to do. Uh, so, in order to creating a very good atmospheric in this lighting scenario, which is the lighting, the raining part, I'm using the ultra dynamic sky. Where it is? Let me grab. Yes, right there. Ultra dynamic sky. Uh, 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 Particle system that helped me a lot in order to add this raining and lightning strikes and to reach out the atmosphere that I wanted to. After this, adding this particle in the scene, I added this decal. Let me break it down a bit. It's a glass material from the advanced glass package on Unreal Engine Marketplace, but I changed from material domain to decal in order to using this material as a raining drops. So and also making the wood feel more wet, and the same goes with the ground and this raining puddles in the ground. So it's helped me a lot in order to achieve the desired look that I wanted to. Plus, I used the Easy Fog plugin that William created, this smart plugin, smart package. Let me trying to select this. Yes, I have used this opacity mask with this normal mask, and I adjusted the base color tint in order to match the and balance the whole color tint that I wanted to follow, and adjusted the normal map intensity in order to add more poppiness and make this more pop or bump into the texture itself, so it will be affected with the lighting, as we see right there. And after adding this, I did adjust the HDRI to make it a bit more the what is called the golden hour time frame. So it added this color tunes that I love it a lot while working on this. After this, I adjusted the sequencer to add this lighting strikes keyframes to add more directional light. It has very intense values. So when I'm playing back the sequence, directional light strikes as play the rule as lighting strikes. After this sequencer, I will go for the final part, which will be the exporting part. The exporting part, I faced a lot of issues in it. And one more thing, I have followed the ACES workflow. So let me go through, let me select like the sunset part right there and grab like the sequencer, not this one. So I will have my sequencer and my shot. So I will, first thing I add it to the movie render queue, and I have created a lot of templates as we see right there. So let's go for the ACES 4K. The ACES, first thing I'm using the XR was multi-layer and compression, this compression. Because to maintain to save about disk size at the same time, not overkilling my machine while rendering this render. After this, I'm adjusted the anti-aliasing to 8 sample temporary sample count and override anti-aliasing to TSR. And for the important part, which will be the color output. The OCIO configuration, let me open it very quick. First thing, I downloaded the ACES 1.2 config from the GitHub website, and I created this configuration, and I added the configuration file. After this, For the desired color spaces, for the index 0, I added the utility linear sRGB, and for the index 1, I added the ACES CG. So because we will using this in DaVinci, so after adding the color output, I make sure that I have enabled this configuration and add for the source color space for linear sRGB, and for destination mode color space ACES 3G. After this, adding the game overrides, add my desired resolution, and there's multiple things. First, one of the things that I really loved about Unreal Engine 5.1, one of the camera settings right there is what it's called, uh, lens, anamorphic lens. Yes, anamorphic lens. There is a squeeze factor right there. I added 1.6. You can add it to and adjust it to, if you want a wide lens, you can add the 239, or if you wanted to use the full frame, you feel free to use it the 16 by 9. But in this scenario, I used the 16 by 9 because I wanted to add all my focus into the house itself. After this, adjusting the camera setting, I'm using the film pack DSLR lens setting. I adjusted here, and yeah, for the camera moves, there is a camera shake right there as we see. How I did created this camera shake, because this one of the part that I have searched a lot in it, because before an Unreal Engine 4 project, I had this camera shake component, and for some reason it's gone away. So in order to recreate this again, it's very easy. All you need is creating a blueprint class, fake, and there's camera shake component. After opening this blueprint, close it and open it again. So you have the values. So you have the shake pattern that you want to follow, the settings that you want to follow. Feel free to play with it till you reach the desired look that you wanted. There's two ways in order to achieving camera shakes into Unreal Engine, or three ways. There's a multiple ways. First, from a camera shake blueprint. Second, from virtual camera, either using from an iPhone with the Live Link Unreal Engine plugin, or from creating shooting with regular camera and tracking this camera animation and put it into Unreal Engine. Feel free to use the solution that you want. But for making it a bit quick, I have used the regular camera shake. Why I did not add it into post like on DaVinci? Because DaVinci it will be a 2D animation or 2D movement. So I wanted to feel it a more way 3D dimensional. So I added this into Unreal Engine itself. And second thing, as I mentioned first of the talk, I wanted to make everything from start to the end into Unreal Engine, even the post processing. Why, if I went for back again for the original light setup that I'm using right there and break it down, the post processing, a very quick, that we can notice that there's a lot of playing that with the settings right there. First, I set the exposure to manual, exposure compensation to 10. After this, I did not play with the image effects, but I played with the temperature, tint, saturation for the global settings. I left everything as it is, and I added played with the blue correction, and I did not add a color correction. Why? I will get into it. And slope and toe set in 0.62 and 0.6. There's very important part. I'm using ACES. So ACES, after exporting all of this, why ACES? Why using ACES? ACES will give you the freedom to play with colors and give you a way wider depths of your render into DaVinci. So after lighting your whole scene and after lighting your environment, You will have an infinity customization to adjust the exposure in some areas. And if there's something that highlights as it's a bit strong in Unreal Engine, you can adjust it. It seems if anyone familiar with cinematography, and this one of the things that I have learned with Unreal Engine. Yeah, you are an Unreal Engine artist, but you have to learn a cinematography. What the camera lenses is, what is the physical camera is, how it's working, how to light, how TD work, light their scenes, how the cinema, what is the cinema is, because all this background will be put in your artwork. So I faced an issue while rendering this scene because I was rendering on 4K. Sometimes Unreal Engine glitching and shadows also still glitching. So in order to fix this, I used the old-fashioned rendering method, which is, let me open the sequencer. Yes, the movie scene capture. Sometimes I'm using this solution in order to rendering some scenes because some scenes didn't work very well. I don't know why, but the movie render queue and there is some glitching and some part that work very well. So I'm using the old fashioned. I set the XR and ASUS Rec 709 sRGB and send you this to ASUS TG and render the XR sequence. But most of the renders is used with movie render queue. Let us go for the DaVinci part that I've used and how to set up an ACES workspace. Uh,
Let's do some questions first.
yeah.
Before you go into DaVinci, because it's a relevant question. Why did you choose ACES for this project? I think it's it's a
Mhm.
lot to explain, isn't it? What ACES is and everything. But I'll let you try and explain why you chose ACES.
Okay, let me explain this very fast. Why I chose ACES? Uh, I will let me show you something right there that this project one, two, three, four, five, six. This six project I used ACES. So I found that ACES helped me a lot with having more. Let me show you something a bit more. Uh, just a second. Where it goes? Yeah, ACES versus sRGB. RGB. As we see, ACES has more color information. And when coloring a scene, it has way more grayscale range, like highlights and shadows and midtones. It has way more colors in it, especially with the green light, green side. So sRGB is way limited, and it is way has more freedom in it. Second thing, when you're rendering regular JPEG renders and put it into DaVinci to color it, and you add a bit tuning for the colors, you can find that your light and your scene is ruined and everything is crushed and the contrast is blown away. Why all of this things happen? Because there's no color information and there's no light information in the scene. So any editing software has no information. So Aces, I found it way more unlimited and give me more freedom to adjust settings into post production. We can see, let's go for the DaVinci part first. Let me go for setting up the scene or setting up DaVinci for this project. So first we go for project settings, color management. For color science, you have to set it to ACCC, and version for 1.2 the same that we use into Unreal Engine, and output device transform is Rec 709. After this, there is something that you have to uh, be aware of. Let me disable the default screen. When you import your EXR render into DaVinci, you can notice that, as you see in the small viewport, all your color is blown away. It's not looking the same as Unreal Engine. So how you can bring it back, as you see right there, how you can bring it back for the look that you had in Unreal Engine? First, you right click on the your render and go to down for ACES input transform, and here we can find ACE CSC ACES CG. That's the same that we have picked on Unreal Engine. So we give we give DaVinci the details and the setting that needs to read this EXR render. So after this, I open on that third screen the reference that I have, so I will have a very good understanding what the desired look that I wanted to do. So let me slowly go one by one node into this color correction part. First, as we see in this scene, I selected the highlights in this HDR dynamic range panel and adjusted a bit the lighting, the light, and the shadows and the dark tones, and played a bit with the color with the color went. So in order to brighten up these areas a bit. After this, I played with some colors in some areas. Let me show you here with the orange color for adjusting the tint of the windows because it's blown away as we see. So I wanted to reduce the saturation. So I selected the window colors and separate it from the other parts. How? By going there, where it goes. Yeah, we have the mask. You feel free to play with the game, blurriness, the softness of the mask that you have, and also here you can limit the hue, saturation, luminance. So you limiting the values that DaVinci will pick. After this, let me disable the key. Just a second. Oh my god. Yeah. Right there, I added a big glow to the scene. Sometimes you can notice that in Unreal Engine, I did not play it a lot with blooming because I found that glow or blooming inside DaVinci is a bit better. And you can control which part is bloomed, have bloom, and which part is settle. So it's give me more flexible when color grading. And I adjusted some of the shadows as we see right there, some of the midtones, and adding more glow in the top, and add a bit lens distortion over and over again, and some chromatic aberration and film grain at the end for final post-production layer. This for this light scenario. If we went for the daylight, we can notice that it has way more node than the night scene. Let me break it down a bit. Here I played with a bit for brightening up some parts, adjusting some parts, added a bit glow in some areas, chromatic aberration removal to why? Because chromatic aberration Unreal Engine, it's a global for a global setting. And one more thing in how the real cameras works, you can find in blowing areas and the areas that has highlights or really highlights in it, it has this small chromatic aberration. So I'm adding this chromatic aberration and limiting the effects of it to be only effect on the highlights. After this, adding a film grain, and one of the things that I'm loving with DaVinci film grain, that you have the full controls for adding grains into shadows, midtones, and highlights separately. Because as you know, grains is way more in the midtones and shadows part rather than the highlights, because highlights, it has more information, and you will learn this from knowing well how to use a camera and how the real camera works. After this, I'm kind of fan to add this small lens distortion. I don't know why, but I feel it is good, and I'm here adjusting over and over again the tune down a bit the shadows from warm to cold. Why? Because in color correction of this, I wanted the shadows to be cold and wanted the highlights to be warm. So I separated this and added this glow in order, because the sun hits a lot this area. So I increased the light in this area, and adding more and more color correction notes to it, and adding a final color correction to the scene. The same goes with the sunset. If we disable this and go very quick for the parts and the development of this color correction setup, as we see right there, and for the final part. This is the original, or the raw output from Unreal Engine, and this adding a bit glow because it's rainy and thunderstorm. So the camera has it's a bit wet, so it has to be more glowish and a bit blur. It's not sharp. So I adjusted the curves in order to crush more the shadows. After this, I added vignetting and adjusting the tones to more bluish cool scene, because as we mentioned, colors and lighting is give you the story and give you the feelings, and adjusting and increases a lot the film grain, chromatic aberration, final post production layers. And at the end, I grabbed a lot of music tracks from motion array, and adjusted, add a bit of layers of surrounding in sounds around it. And yeah, at the end, that's, I believe that everything regards for this part.
Cool.
Yeah.
So this was a basic introduction from start to end.
Yeah.
So let's do some more questions, and then we will get close to ending the stream. Borky Design asks, how do you come up with personal project ideas? Do you use techniques such as brainstorming, sketching, etc., to have more complex ideas?
Okay. How I can get an ideas with personal projects. Look, in my free time, I'm always open art station and see other artists artworks, and gaining backgrounds, and see how every artist thinking, and collecting all this artwork that I found interesting, especially from the concept artist, because the concept artist has no limitation, and you grab multiple concepts, and there's some project. Look, there's one thing from there's two things from creating a personal work. First, to enhance yourself, so you didn't have to repeat yourself over and over again, always looking for something different. What's your weak points, and what's the things that you wanted to improve, and search on it, search for more challenging environments, more challenging concept arts, and creating it. And feel free to ask people how I can fix this, how I can create this. And I see that personal projects is a very useful training material, and also it's very useful to share it with people and get their opinion, and getting more experience.
Yep. Eyelight is asking, what is your post processing volume setting in this project? Impossible. What do you prefer in your post process settings for any future projects for dynamic lighting? He showed it a bit earlier. He had some settings for the lumens. He didn't have much color grading or any of the effects. You saw him using DaVinci. A lot of people will do it in Engine, which is which you should when you're doing game, of course. But
Yeah.
this is a personal project, and for personal project we use things in DaVinci, which is why we also have a course for it as well. So I don't know, did you do any exposure settings in post processing? I don't think you showed it, no?
Yeah, and the daylight, I set it to O2 only for maintain the daylight or the crispness of the daylight. For rest of other modes, I set it to manual. But yeah, the post processing, especially in the games, as you mentioned, and especially with the post processing of Unreal Engine, with color correction, is very useful, and it has a lot of customization and creativity. So you can accomplish the Da Vinci look into Unreal Engine way easier.
um, David is wanted to double check with you. Are you creating the LUTs in Resolve and putting it in Unreal Engine, or you just take the screenshot from DaVinci and putting it up on your station?
Look, if I will work on a game or something that will be a real time game or real time environment overall, so the color correction has to be on Unreal Engine. I'm doing it in Photoshop. Why? As you see, DaVinci is picking some parts and it's more local, not global. So adjusting the colors and the tones and everything in Unreal Engine with adding the LUT that Unreal Engine added it into Unreal Engine documents. So, and after this, exporting this LUT and adding it onto Unreal Engine to have the color correction applied.
And David, remember, LUT does not work on HDR screens.
Yeah.
So that's also why we color grade without the LUT if you are doing for HDR screen. When lighting artist says story, what does it mean? The previous is asking that previously.
Yeah, when lighting art says story. Yeah, let me, as you saw in the project that I have right here, I have one house. From this one house, I can give you multiple feelings, multiple stories. Like there is a thunderstorm, and there's something that you know wanted to escape from, or there's a creepy looking and lighting that you feel that there's a kind of ghost or a zombie that will get from underground. Or I can give you a daylight that there's a family that just moved there, or it's abandoned place. Lighting always tells stories,
Cool.
and you can notice this in cinematography.
That's right. I think that's all we have time for. Let's say thank you to Hassan,
Yeah.
for giving us an extra 30 minutes of his time because he was supposed to end it 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Um, I will talk to him a bit privately, and I will also discuss with him about a couple of other things. I am sorry that the stream of the sharing wasn't high quality enough, but I'll talk to him about it as well. So thank you for attending. Again, you can join Discord and hang out there and ask for more help and questions and the kind of network and do all those things at Lightingbot's free Discord. And if you ever want to learn a little bit more about lighting, we have courses for it. And if you're curious about it, why not just look at this video for a bit? If that was useful, you should head over to courses.lightingbot.com and consider some of the courses and mentorship. You'll be able to learn all of these things: fundamental of lighting, incorrect materials, exposure, EV, how to use volumetric, how to deal with light bidding, how to do post-process grading, emissive, how to do fill light and extra lighting, different times of day, how you do it differently for the each day using EV, how to go away from the EV and technical lighting to do artistic lighting, understanding curves, analyzing painting, how it affects your art and lighting, how to train your eye and how to learn from painting, candle principle, Purkinje effect, game optimization, the danger of fog that a lot of people don't understand, and lots more. Again, we have had people go through the course and get work. We have some testimonial you can check. Little bit about myself, my co-author Sander, who has been going through the content and improving the content as well. He's a technical lighting artist, so more technical than myself. And you can check all the content that's being added on a regular basis, fundamental stuff, advanced stuff, technical stuff, and we're still adding new content because when students join, they have an ability to ask for some learning. Basically, you can also upgrade to monthly mentorship You get some extra stuff for discount price, and you have me and other mentors. If you upgrade to 5 months, you can have an opportunity. So that's a general introduction for you guys. I would upload the promotional video, but it's too big for the stream. But I will edit it down for you guys. Thank you. Please says thank you for the stream. Leave a hello and a thank you. It's quite, it's quite late for him as well. I think it's 9, 10, 10:30, 11. So it's pretty late for him. Again, thank you. See you guys another time. I think we have another stream already next week or something, but I guess pay attention to the YouTube channel or whatever, and I'm sure you'll find out. So thank you again, and see you guys around. Have a nice day. Bye.